I hold the belief that laws serve a vital purpose in safeguarding individuals and maintaining order in society. However, it's undeniable that some individuals exploit legal loopholes to perpetrate wrongdoing. In such cases, understanding the intricacies of the law becomes essential to combat such injustices. My name is Casey, and the concept of justice has always intrigued me. Aristotle, the ancient Greek philosopher, emphasized the importance of order in society. While order implies the structured functioning of a community, justice remains a more elusive notion. It encompasses the moral correctness of human actions, yet its interpretation can vary across different contexts, including era, region, religion, race, and other factors. In the past, during times of war, victory over the enemy was perceived as just, while adhering to religious doctrines constituted the highest form of justice for many. However, contemporary society views harming an enemy as a crime, and those outside a particular faith may not align with its doctrines of justice. Reflecting on these philosophical musings, I often wonder how Aristotle would contextualize justice in our modern world. Personally, I believe that establishing and enforcing rules that promote safety and security in society embodies the essence of justice in our present era. My contemplation of justice was profoundly influenced by my father, whose disdain for injustice and wrongdoing was unwavering. From a young age, he instilled in me and my younger brother the principles of fairness and equality. His impassioned discussions about the importance of treating others justly left a lasting impression on me. As I grew older, my interest in law deepened, sparked in part by the proliferation of television dramas centered around prosecutors, judges, and lawyers. Even as a determined middle school student, I found myself drawn to the complexities of legal proceedings and the pursuit of justice in the face of adversity. Like many others, I followed the trends of popular culture, but what distinguished me was my profound interest in the inner workings of various professions. I contemplated what it would be like to walk in their shoes, alongside my admiration for the actors and the allure of the bands that sang the theme songs. I found myself drawn to the world of law and legal studies. While I never publicly acknowledged it, my fascination with legal dramas played a significant role in igniting my passion for the law. Beyond mere fandom, these shows genuinely captivated me, prompting me to aspire to study law in college. I was admitted and graduated with commendable grades, a testament to the hard work and dedication I invested in my studies during those 4 years. Upon graduation, I found myself at a crossroads, unsure of my career path. I explored fields that intrigued me, gaining valuable life experiences along the way. Eventually, my interest in legal work resurfaced, leading me to secure a position at the Bar Association, where I oversaw lawyers in the state. Working in the legal sphere broadened my understanding of societal dynamics, fueling my dedication to aiding the underprivileged who faced injustices without recourse. This became the driving force of my life's work, and I immersed myself wholeheartedly in the cause. As time passed, I found myself approaching my 30s, and it was then that the president of the Bar Association proposed a transfer to Boston, citing the city's myriad challenges and expressing confidence in my ability to effect positive change. Encouraged by his recognition of my capabilities and intrigued by the prospect of a new challenge, I eagerly accepted the opportunity. Upon accepting his offer in the U.S., I quickly learned that becoming a lawyer required membership in a state bar association, a private organization tasked with overseeing lawyers' activities. While bar associations don't directly handle client cases, they play a pivotal role in regulating the legal profession. One of my responsibilities involved managing a legal consultation service for the public, a service that aimed to assist those in legal distress. Contrary to common belief, there are numerous individuals grappling with legal issues, and I was determined to aid as many as possible. Law firms and individual lawyers often specialize in specific areas such as criminal law, civil cases, traffic accidents, or divorce matters. Within the jurisdiction overseen by our bar association, there was a notable firm dedicated to public legal consultations. While partly a business strategy to attract clients, their genuine commitment to assisting the public was evident. Stanley, a lawyer at this firm, exemplified this dedication. Actively involved in our legal consultation service, he approached each client with empathy and insight, always mindful of the citizen's perspective. Casey, the consultation desk is open until 5 p.m. today, right? Let's try to help as many people as possible, he'd say, demonstrating his unwavering commitment to service. As we navigated through consultations together, I've observed Stanley's meticulous approach. He listened attentively to each client, offering precise advice tailored to their situation. In cases where advice fell short, he transparently discussed the associated costs before suggesting the use of the firm's services. His genuine intent to aid those in need, rather than prioritizing profit, set him apart. Among the lawyers I've encountered, Stanley undoubtedly stood out as one of the best. As we spent more time together, discussing various matters including work, our bond grew stronger. I remember one instance where Stanley confided in me about a troubling case he was handling, highlighting his commitment to seeking justice above all else. I approached the subject of the case cautiously, mindful of potential boundaries, prefacing my inquiry with a tentative, "If it's okay to ask." I braced myself for any reservations Stanley might have had about discussing it with a staff member like myself. To my surprise, he displayed no such hesitations and willingly shared the details with me. While his manner may have seemed casual, I felt a surge of excitement at his trust in me and his openness to collaboration. As Stanley outlined the case's key points, my mind raced with potential solutions. Carefully selecting my words and expressions to avoid presumption, I shared my insights with him. His genuine appreciation for my input buoyed my spirits. "Wow, I hadn't thought of that." "Thanks, that's really helpful," he remarked, his untroubled smile reaffirming his broad-mindedness and compassion. About half a month later, Stanley returned to me, visibly delighted. "Thanks for your advice the other day. Everything went well, just as you suggested, Casey," he exclaimed. The client was satisfied, and the outcome had bolstered Stanley's reputation. His words of praise left me feeling gratified and valued. In a moment of candor, Stanley expressed admiration for my legal acumen and problem-solving skills, prompting him to inquire about my background in law. Reluctant to disclose too much, I'd offered a vague response, explaining that my knowledge of law stemmed from my role at the administration office. Despite my reservations, Stanley insisted on treating me to a meal as a token of appreciation. Though hesitant at first, I ultimately accepted his invitation, touched by his gesture of gratitude. The restaurant he chose exuded a stylish yet relaxed ambience, a departure from my usual focus on work. Throughout the evening, Stanley proved to be an engaging conversationalist, effortlessly weaving between discussions about his profession and insights into his personal interests. Our exchange felt genuine and reciprocal, making the evening a delightful interlude from the demands of everyday life. As our time together drew to a close, Stanley expressed his gratitude once more. "Thanks for joining me today," he said sincerely, leaving me with a sense of warmth and camaraderie that lingered long after the meal ended. I extended the invitation under the guise of expressing gratitude for the other day, but the truth was, I had harbored a desire to ask you out for quite some time. Finally seizing the opportunity, I voiced my feelings, expressing my joy at getting the chance to be with you. It wasn't meant to be just for that day, and with sincerity, Stanley asked me to be his girlfriend. As someone who had never experienced such a direct approach from a man before, I was initially taken aback. However, my response came naturally, and I found myself saying yes with genuine happiness. Our relationship began, introducing a new and delightful essence to my daily life. Stanley frequently sought my advice on work matters, and my earnest efforts to assist him seemed to be exactly what he needed. Witnessing his contentment brought me joy, and I felt a sense of fulfillment akin to a supportive wife behind the scenes. The idea of marriage gradually crossed my mind, and as if in sync with my thoughts, Stanley proposed, presenting a ring. Overwhelmed with gratitude, I exclaimed, Thank you, God. And so we got married. Until recently, the notion of being a married woman seemed inconceivable, and the reality felt surreal. Blessings from my parents and younger brother accompanied our union, bringing true happiness. However, amidst the joyous occasion, my uncle, who had always cherished me like a daughter, appeared troubled. My father explained that he was likely feeling a tinge of sadness seeing someone he considered a daughter embark on married life. While the journey of marriage presented its share of trials and errors, each challenge brought a unique sense of satisfaction. The discovery and growth that accompanied these experiences defined what happiness truly felt like. I continued working and discussing matters with Stanley, who graciously accepted my suggestion to share household chores. We both recognized the importance of cooperation as a couple, with Stanley's considerate words touching me deeply. As we celebrated our first wedding anniversary, the joy of the occasion was accompanied by a growing concern about Stanley. Lately, I noticed changes in his work routine. He stopped working at the public consultation desk and began avoiding duties at the bar association and the law firm. While I understood that he might have his own vision and thoughts about his work, the lack of communication saddened me. What troubled me more was his tendency to come home late. In the initial days of our marriage, he would rush home after work, making time for us. However, over time, he started returning later, often past midnight. Concerned for his health, I gently urged him to come home earlier, expressing my worry. Stanley, however, dismissed it, attributing his late returns to work demands. The situation escalated when he announced an unexpected business trip over the weekend. Puzzled by the necessity of such a trip, I questioned its purpose. Annoyed, Stanley dismissed my concerns, emphasizing his commitment to his work. He left for the trip, leaving me unsettled and anxious. Upon his return, he brought back a local delicacy as a souvenir, attempting to appease any concerns. However, the gesture did little to alleviate my unease. His late returns persisted, sometimes extending to the next day, and occasional weekend business trips became a recurring pattern. The once rare occurrences now seemed unsettlingly frequent, and I couldn't shake the growing unease in my heart. I noticed a long hair on Stanley's suit when he returned home. Was it a mere accidental attachment, or did it signify something more? My mind raced, attempting to make sense of the situation, but my efforts were in vain. The truth unfolded before me one day when Stanley mentioned a weekend work commitment. Deciding to venture out for a change of scenery, I headed toward my favorite store in the downtown area. To my astonishment, as I walked, my eyes caught sight of Stanley emerging from a nearby alley, despite his claim of working at that time. What shocked me even more was the woman walking beside him, their fingers intertwined like lovers. Surprisingly calm, I detachedly followed them for about 10 minutes until they disappeared into an entertainment district. That night, I sat quietly on the living room sofa, waiting for Stanley to return. At 12:30 a.m., he arrived, humming a tune. However, upon seeing me, he gasped in surprise. Despite his attempt to pass it off as a good time at work, I confronted him about what I had witnessed in the city. Stanley flinched momentarily but quickly recovered, dismissing it as a misunderstanding. He claimed the woman was a client, and they had a meeting in a lounge, even needing to pick up a key at the front desk. Suppressing my emotions, I spoke coolly, pointing out the interesting details of his explanation. Sensing my skepticism, Stanley retorted angrily, insisting there was no proof of infidelity. Frustrated, he seized the moment to suggest a divorce, claiming he was tired of the relationship. Shocked by his abrupt proposal, I questioned the absence of love after just over a year of marriage. Stanley, who seemed to have transformed, confessed that there had been only a little love at the beginning of our union. I was taken aback by Stanley's callous words, delivered with a lack of remorse. His reasoning for our marriage felt cold and utilitarian, leaving me stunned. Once I thought Stanley was a wonderful man, but now I wondered if this was his true self all along. My limited experience in love clouded my judgment, preventing me from seeing through his facade. Stanley's proposal of divorce based on irreconcilable differences and a 50-50 split sounded off to me. It didn't align with the situation, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. When he confidently offered $100,000 as compensation in case I could provide proof of infidelity, I couldn't help but laugh. His overconfidence seemed misplaced. In a sudden turn of events, I confronted him about his affair with Sarah, the office receptionist. With evidence in hand, including a written statement from Sarah promising to sever ties with Stanley, his demeanor shifted drastically. His disbelief and panic were palpable as he realized the depth of my knowledge and investigative prowess. Gathering evidence such as text conversations and receipts from their rendezvous, I presented Stanley with undeniable proof of his infidelity. His confident facade crumbled, replaced by fear and uncertainty. The tables had turned, and I held the leverage in our confrontation. It was then that I revealed my background in investigative work, honed through years at my father's detective agency. My father's commitment to justice inspired me to pursue truth and expose societal injustices. Now that same sense of justice guided me in confronting Stanley and seeking closure to our tumultuous relationship. As Stanley faced the reality of his actions, I remained resolute, knowing that my pursuit of justice would bring closure to this chapter of my life. For 2 years, I immersed myself in studying and training in investigation, partly inspired by a detective TV show of the time. Though some might view this as a lack of personal growth, this experience proved invaluable in my later endeavors. Slowly, I retrieved a badge from my pocket and pinned it to my chest. Stanley's eyes widened in disbelief. The badge wasn't what he expected. It was a lawyer's badge. Apologetically, I revealed my true identity as a lawyer, a journey that diverged from the traditional path of law school. Instead of following the conventional route, I trained at my father's detective agency before enrolling in law school and eventually becoming a lawyer. With the support of my uncle, who presided over the bar association where I first found employment, I balanced roles in his office and law firm, gaining a reputation in the legal world. Transferring to the Boston Bar Association on my uncle's recommendation, I continued working at his firm while serving on the disciplinary committee. This committee plays a crucial role in evaluating lawyers' conduct and meting out sanctions for violations of ethics. Unveiling my true identity to Stanley, I confronted him about his illegal activities. He had been facilitating tax evasion schemes at the public consultation desk, a revelation that left him in despair. Subsequently, Stanley was arrested by the FBI, as his illegal operations involved multiple participants. The prosecutor handling the case was my brother, who, like me, pursued a career in law and had aspirations to join the FBI. As the divorce with Stanley was finalized, I planned to claim compensation for the ordeal. Although it wouldn't reach the $500,000 Stanley offered, I doubted his capacity to pay, given his impending legal troubles. Reflecting on my marriage to Stanley, I realized my uncle's unease stemmed from suspicions about misconduct within the bar association. Though he couldn't foresee the details, his concerns about my marriage now made sense. Despite the betrayal, I resolved not to lose trust in people. Instead, I aimed to use the law for the betterment of society and the pursuit of justice, channeling my experiences into a force for good.